Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bluddworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video is a continuation of my Castles and Crusades series. So very specifically, Castles and Crusade, the 2006 printing. Last week we did character creation, or last video, I did character creation. But now what I'm going to show you is how to transfer that character that you might have created, or at least created on Roll20. And so this is the second in the series of character creation. Now, I'm not going to just stop with Roll20. I'm also investigating the Foundry virtual tabletop as well. And there's a very, very good chance that I shift away from Roll20 and into Foundry or possibly Fantasy Grounds, because I find that Roll20, even though I've been using it for a number of years now, it is still very clunky, and it still doesn't do everything that that I really would hope that it does for some of these OSR or older edition games. And so I've been looking around and trying to find the next step in in virtual tabletops, and Foundry will certainly be one that I take a good look at. But for now, I do have Roll20, and so I'm just going to show you how I went from character creation and translated that over into Roll20. So I am going to shift views here. So this is the character that I created for Castles and Crusades. He is a halfling thief named Melilot Marigold. Melilot Marigold is possibly the first AD&D first edition character I created. He was certainly my longest lasting character. He survived from first level all the way up into the very high teens. He was a thief acrobat, and I believe he was in the upper 15s or 15, 16 range in thief acrobat, and then he picked up some fighter levels as well afterwards. So he was multi-classed, and I believe he was around 8th or possibly even 9th level, the maximum level allowable for a halfling at the time. So yeah, he ultimately became a fairly powerful character back in the day, and so for these purposes, even though I don't have the character sheets from the past, I really wish I still did, but that's going back over 40 years ago. So without further ado, let's take a look at what I had done here. So grabbed an image offline, used a token stamp 2, which you can find. It's free. It's also online. And what you do is you'll come over and let me just bring up his character sheet. So you bring up the character sheet, you go into edit, and you'll put the image here. You'll create the token, upload the token, place it on the board here, and then you can assign it to here. And that way it's connected. So anytime I make changes in this, they will automatically translate. Sometimes they automatically transfer over from the character sheet to the icon when it appears on your board, but sometimes it doesn't. That's one of those quirky things about Roll20 that's kind of annoying. You could type in a little character bio. I just put one single line. All right. So Melilot Marigold is a halfling rogue, an outcast from his own family, and a lone adventurer as a result. It's all I need right from the beginning. All right. And I will then go over and take a look at the character sheet. So here, and I will expand this, make this a little bit larger for you to see better. So you start inputting your information here, and you have a drop down for alignment, and you put in all of their information. The level actually is important when you put it in here, because it will alter all of his skill-based or attribute-based functions. And so level does contribute to those functions, giving a +1 for doing basically everything that requires a roll. And so that's that's another thing that's important to keep in mind, that you want to make sure you continue keeping track of your level here on the character sheet, because it will translate on the board that you're playing on with the avatars. Another glitch I keep on seeing with this is that it keeps on putting in tertiary skills attributes, and I don't know why. So I take those out every time I come in. I don't know what effect it actually has on anything, but it does. Coming in here, AC, it's ascending armor class, so you put in the armor class bonuses that you get. So he has a 16 dexterity, so that gives him a +2, and then he's wearing leather armor, that gives him a +2, and so that brings him up to a total of a 14 normally. Then he carries a shield. So that brings him up to a 15. I had to put in the additional mods in order for it to, completely work out. And so that's where he ends up with a 17. That's including when he's wearing a helmet and when he's utilizing a shield. The helmet only applies to, will only apply if he gets hit in the head. Which case it will still maintain that 17. That's the target number in order to hit him. That's the way that the to-hit rolls work. I then listed his weapons that he carries, and this EV is the amount that the encumbrance value. All right, and the encumbrance value is reduced by 1 for items which are worn, and all other items are counted as their full encumbrance value. So I believe he has to stay around an 11 total in order not to start to become encumbered. I list all of his skills here, and you'll notice the difference between advanced Dungeons and Dragons or Dungeons and Dragons in general and Castles and Crusades is that you don't have the percentile in order to do these things. So he is a rogue, so he has climbing and hiding and moving silently, opening locks, picking pockets, deciphering script, traps, listening, and these each have an attribute that they're assigned to. So when I do his various checks, it will then take into account his attribute bonuses, his attribute modifiers, and they will be included in the roll. So with this system here, when you level up, you're gaining a +1 for your level, for all skills that you're doing, for all attribute checks that you might be making, and it does it automatically for you. So you don't have to say, well, my pickpocket went from 33% to 37%. No, it actually just adds a whole new pip to it. So really it's a 5% increase with every level across every one of your skills. Now, the attribute differences, however, is important here. Because let's say climbing is a dexterity, and dexterity is one of his primaries, which means his target starts at 12, whereas with a strength, where he has is a secondary. His secondary, it starts at an 18. All right. So for dexterity checks and intelligence checks, he has a 12 target number as his base. And for strength, con, wisdom, and charisma, they're all an 18 base chance. So just much harder to hit those numbers, for those secondary skills. And again, tertiary might be a more advanced version of this game. I don't know when this character sheet was generated, but apparently not for this oldest printing of Castles and Crusades. I then added some of his racial abilities, which none of them actually have roles attached to them. They're all just modifiers to his other abilities, such as his saving throws. So saving throws are based on the attribute once again, plus level, plus any modifier. And so you can see he has some bonuses to breath weapon and disease. He has a +2 to fear. That's a racial ability there. He has a +2 to traps, which is also a racial. A +2 to bonus poisons, saving throws. That's also a racial. He received Constitution. No, I'm sorry. Traps was a class, and poisons was a racial. So he has a number of bonuses to those, and again, they're tied to the attributes, not necessarily only modified by level, and not necessary on a chart like you would have on the old Dungeon Master's screen for AD&D. Instead, they're tied to attributes and then modified by level. Okay, so, and some other things here. You have a journal where you can actually type in your notes and so on. So that's taking a look at what the character looks like on the character sheet. So now I'm going to come out of here. So let me leave from edit, and we'll close this down. And let's take a look at the character himself. So when you have the icon on the screen like this, you can just click on this, and it brings up these 3 bubbles here. So I'll just explain these really quickly. So red box and this is your choice, however you want to set this up. The red is for his level. All right, so it's good to know what level he is. The 7 is his current hit points. And there's a bar down here which will show you his current and then his maximum hit points. And that's always visible. And then his armor class, which is a 16. Actually, I need to raise this to a 17, depending on whether or not he's carrying his shield, or if it's a hit to the head, then it would be a 17. Otherwise, it's a base 16. Now, you can modify these by clicking on the little, I'll go back, I did that fast. Wait, that's a mistake. Let me close down here. When you come here, you see this little cog here. In the cog, you can actually set these things up where you can assign what they are, HP. This one is a tiny lowercase AC, and then maximum, there's no reason to have anything there. And same thing with his level. I found that only certain ways of listing the attribute actually do what you want it to do on the on the drop down. So like if I go to HP here, I found the HP where it is capitalized here. You don't want hit maximum. There's also a lowercase hit points further down here. I found that the only way it appears correctly on the screen is if you find this exact one. Same thing with the AC. I kept on finding that unless I did this particular AC, then the character sheet wouldn't automatically transfer over to this one. All right, and then the same thing. Level has always been no problem with the level. So again, there have been some issues, and Roll20 is not new. It's been around for, oh, excuse me, it's been around for quite a number of years. And so it's just not getting some of these, fairly small bugs, but they haven't been fixed in years and years. So it's kind of annoying in that. Now, I will show you something, and this is going to come up for a following video when I talk about the various systems that that the game system uses. And I set up a little scenario here. I'm going to do a solo action with this character, and we'll see. Now, as you can see, this one here, when I first dropped him down, it didn't automatically transfer his armor class correctly. And if I go here, and you see how the AC is different here, that's a perfect example of why certain things do not work correctly unless you do the correct one. Now, I saved the change, and I might have to actually go in here and change this to a 16. Save that, and now it's there. If I click on it, it should be not working. There it goes. So again, sometimes it really matters which one you actually toggle in order to get the right information. So what I'm going to do here is I dropped all these little things in. All right, as I walk this character through this mini scenario here, there will be various skill checks that I make for the character to see what he discovers. All right, so as he's moving through, as he passes over this, I will have him do like a listening check. All right, because underneath this is a trapdoor, and then the trapdoor will have a setting attached to it. I have these kobolds here. They are 1 hit die. They have 2 hit points, 15 armor class. All right, which means that if I am going to approach over here, I'm not going to run through this whole thing, but if I approach over here and I wanted to attack this creature here, what I'm going to do is I am going to go over to my character sheet, and I'll do this very, very quickly. I'm going to attack with my short sword. I'll make the attack roll and then the damage roll. Now, normally speaking, like when you usually do this, it's just this particular character sheet doesn't do both rolls at the same time. It does the attack, and then you have to separately do the damage. So let's see what I did to this this kobold. The result is that I missed him. But if I had hit him, I would have hit him for 6 points of damage. I would have killed him. So I missed. Okay. And then he would make his attack back on me. I'm just going to do a d20 roll. He rolled a 4, so he missed me as well. This second one will attack me. And we're just going to go through, this very quickly. A 15, he missed me as well. And then we go into the next round and so on. All right. Another thing that I've also done here, as he goes through this, see, this is a door here. And so the door has 3 traits that I assign to it. The first one is its difficulty level. So this is a locked door, and you're going to assign difficulty levels to each task that the character is doing. All right, so this particular lock has a difficulty score of a 0. So if I wanted to unlock this door, let's just move him over here just to show. If I wanted to unlock this door, it is going to be a difficulty of 0. All right, so all I'll need to do is score 12 or better. The door itself has 12 hit points in case that fails and you want to use the master unlocker, and that's a blunt weapon or a battle axe or something like that to bust it down. And I left this one blank because there are no traps on this particular door. So I go back to my character sheet. I'm kind of demonstrating, what I was going to do for the next video anyway, but I'll just do this very quickly. So I am going to check for traps. And the result is I still failed. All right, so I didn't discover any traps. I'm going to try to open the lock. And open locks, I was not able to unlock this. I rolled a 6. So again, no luck there. I can do the same thing with this door over here. Now this door has a 2 difficulty. All right, so I'm going to be -2 on this roll as opposed to my straight up roll. So in order to unlock this one, there's still no trap on it. But to unlock this one, I will go back to my character sheet and go back to, I will just go open lock. And let's see. Open lock, I was not able to open this lock either. All right, especially with the -2 on top of that. That was technically a 6 that I rolled. All right, so you can see that as a low-level character, you're still going to have some difficulty doing some of these things. You're not very experienced, and so you're going to have a harder time, doing some of these tasks. And I know this particular, which is the main one, I made it a 3. It has 24 hit points, and it has a trap that's difficult to disarm with a 2. Let's do a trap check on this one. Let's just do the full run on this particular. So I am going to find and remove traps, and I failed. So I didn't find or remove the trap. I am going to try to open a lock, and I failed. And when you toggle over like your actual roll, you can see what your roll was. So I rolled a 4, and I had a +1 and a +2 assigned to that. So once again, you can see he has not been very successful at doing very much here as far as getting into any of these extra doors. I know I didn't even try this one yet, or any of the other cases. But normally he would have a full party with him, and they would be able to, and that's why I gave the 16, that 16 hit point door. This one here is a 16. This one here is a little bit flimsier at a 12. And this one here, no stats because they're not going to get beyond this door. So let's go back over to here. So as you can see, the transferring character creation over to Roll20, even though once you get everything to work, it kind of works. It works okay. It's a little bit clunky, like I said, and some of those, like the attack rolls, you have to do the attack roll and then the damage roll separately. Whereas with other character sheets on Roll20, they are much better integrated, where you could just do both at one time. There's other character sheets there that have much more. It'll give information about the like a spell that you're casting, and it'll actually list the spell effects that you're using and such. So a lot really does depend on the type of character sheet that's being supported on Roll20, and how much information is already pre-done in there. So you can see that Roll20 isn't really very supportive of Castles and Crusades, at this time. maybe that'll change over the next couple of weeks and months as One Bookshelf and Roll20 have merged. So One Bookshelf is supposedly allowing you to transfer your libraries over to Roll20, and hopefully Roll20 actually gets in there and really starts producing some additional character sheets with a lot more functionality to them than what's currently there. Like I said, I will be transferring most likely over to Foundry Virtual Tabletop for future character creations and such. And I'm anticipating that it'll probably take me a little while to get the hang of that. But once again, just taking a look at the character sheet as it is, and how characters in Castles and Crusades, the 2006 printing of the game, then you'll actually see how the system is kind of different, and I think that it's a more modern step forward from AD&D first or even second edition, where it's really making those attributes count for more. And I know some people might not, some gamers might not like that, because they'll feel that, well, geez, you're only rolling 3d6 and then assigning where you like, but there's not that much more flexibility, and you could end up with a character with some fairly low stats. I mean, if I go back to this, let's see. If I go back to Roll20 here, and I go back to my, actually, I could leave it here. You can see I did my attribute rolls up over here. I was rolling 3d6 6 times, and I ended up with fairly decent rolls. I mean, a 15, a 10, an 11, a 10, and a 12. So only one, very good attribute. And then the rest kind of average or marginally above average. So when I actually put these skills into place, and there's slight modifiers that came along with being a halfling and such, the character actually ended up with 2 attributes that gave him bonuses, and none that gave him any minuses. But some worse rolls. If I created some worse rolls here, that would be my character, and that's basically what you're going to roll with and play, at least for some time, with. But I'll get into more details with actual gameplay and actual skills in action and combat in action, and hopefully we'll have a couple of players on as well, so that we can basically show this off as in real time as it goes along. So let's get back over to here. So as you can see, there is some value in using Roll20 in order to get some of those things, at least on there and usable, and with a little tweaking, a little messing around with it, you'll get it to actually function, okay. But once again, it's certainly better to have a virtual tabletop when you're playing online games than it is not to use one at all. All right, so I will at least say that it's I find that it's much easier to share maps and do some of those other functions that you do have on Roll20 than to just kind of what do they call that, theater of the mind, and just have the players kind of guess what's going on or guess what the map looks like or whatever. It is a resource that has its functions, and and like I said, hopefully this new merger between One Bookshelf and Roll20 will bring some more functionality to Roll20, especially with some of these other games that they only minimally support, with just maybe one character sheet or so, and not very much else other than that. So again, and all of that was actually contributed by individual modders who are going into the nuts and bolts of Roll20 and creating, using APIs, the actual character sheets, and then uploading them into the system. So so hopefully with the expanded staff that they're talking about with this new merger, they will actually be able to do a lot more support for the for other games on there that that should certainly get additional support. So once again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will follow up with the next one, where I'm going into the next section of the player's handbook. I am expecting by Wednesday the gatekeeper's the castle keeper's guide. A little Freudian slip there. The castle keeper's guide, which I believe was 2006 as well. So these all, or maybe it was 2007, which is the most, which is part of this print run. So we had 2006, and then 2007. I believe it was released Player's Handbook first, then the equivalent Treasures and Monsters, and then finally the Castle Keeper's Guide. So once again, thanks for joining. I hope you like this video. If you have any other resources for Castles and Crusades on Roll20 that you're aware of that I'm not, please feel free to put that in the comments section so I could look it up, and maybe I can make this a little bit more functional. But otherwise, I really appreciate the person who put this one up there, this character sheet up there, because without it, there would have been nothing. But again, if you're aware of other resources for Roll20, specifically to Castles and Crusades, please feel free to put that in the comments section so I can give it a look-see, and perhaps I will make a return to, with this video series, and talk a little bit more about that functionality of Roll20. So again, thanks for joining. Enjoy the upcoming week. Stay safe out there, and I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. You have a great evening.